This really is the end of an era for the Guardians of the Galaxy. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris and welcome back to another video. So today I'm giving you my ranking of all 9 Guardians of the Galaxy, specifically from Volume 3. And before I give you guys my ranking, let me know down below who your favorite Guardian from this movie was. Hit that like button and subscribe and hit that notification bell as I'm trying to reach my goal of 75,000 subscribers here on the channel. It means a lot. But let's go ahead and get right into this ranking of the 9 Guardians. And it's going to be hard to talk about this without spoilers, so spoiler warning for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Again, if you haven't seen the movie, hit the like button, come back and watch this after that. Or if you don't care about spoilers, welcome in. So coming in last place for me is Kraglin. This is a character who doesn't have much to do in this movie. He's kind of just chilling on Nowhere the whole time, and then near the third act of the movie, him and the rest of the Nowhere base end up coming in and sort of helping out to rescue everybody from the High Evolutionary ship. I guess Kraglin kind of has his own little side arc though, as he starts out trying to use like Yondu's arrow with the fin, and he's not really getting the hang of it. But then in a moment of need, when he really needs to step up and really kick some ass protecting everybody on Nowhere, he looks out and he sees Yondu, and it's just this really beautiful moment where Yondu is like, use your heart, and then he ends up using the whistle just like Yondu would. It was perfect. So Kraglin has a few moments to shine in this movie, but he's definitely my least favorite of the bunch. Coming in at number 8 for me is Cosmo, who is sort of with Kraglin the entire movie over on Nowhere. And there's a great running gag between the two of them where early on in the movie, Kraglin calls Cosmo a bad dog, and so Cosmo is constantly like, tell me I'm a good dog, like take it back. And then near the end of the movie, the scene I was just describing where Kraglin, sees Yondu, finally starts to get the hang of the whistle thing. He has one person left to beat. It doesn't end up working out, so Cosmo comes in, helps out, saves the day. Of course, we get a great callback as Kraglin says, you're a good dog. It was a great little full circle moment for the two of them, very sweet. And actually, in the final moments of the film when Dog Days Are Over is playing, we get to see the two of them dancing and celebrating together. Cosmo lets out like a, oh, 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 and then Kraglin sort of emulates that, and it really is just so heartwarming to see the two of them be buddy-buddy. They're a solid dynamic duo, but they do have the least to do and probably the least screen time of all the Guardians in this movie. Coming in at number 7 on my list is Nebula. Now, this is a character who, again, has come so far since that first movie where she was very hateable and a villain that you didn't really care for. But by the time Guardians 3 rolls around, I really care about her. She has a few lines that hit hard. One in particular is when they're all watching the footage back of the torture that was committed on Rocket, and she's like, this is worse than anything Thanos did to me. I was like, damn, that's how you know Rocket is really going through hell. There's also a moment where she stands up for Peter Quill. Gamora gets fired up about how they're protecting Rocket, and Nebula says he's family to us. She owned Gamora in that moment, so that was awesome. Nebula just drops some of the most heartbreaking lines in this entire movie, because at the end, she tells Drax, you were never meant to be a destroyer, you were meant to be a dad. That line right there, I'm sitting here saying it, thinking about it, like it gets the tears going, It's the waterworks were definitely flowing in this movie, and a lot of that was due to Nebula's line delivery, so she had a great role here. I think the characters above her actually served a little bit of a better purpose and were a little better. At number 6, we have Gamora. Now, typically Gamora would be higher, but in this movie, it takes a while to warm up to her, not gonna lie. She's a Ravager at heart now, and she's a little rude to the Guardians, understandably so, because Peter Quill is like, hey, I'm in love with you, we used to be in love, and she gets irritated by that, but she still has some badass moments, especially during the one-take action scene with No Sleep Till Brooklyn playing. She destroys it with her sword. Like, I would have loved to see more of her combat in this movie and moving forward, but it obviously seems like she is no longer going to be in the MCU. In fact, her and Peter Quill's chemistry in this movie is one of the standouts, like how Peter's constantly trying to win her back over, and she's just slowly warming up to him. She is a bit of a jerk at times, but she ends up coming around to everybody by the end of the movie. And then in a true heartbreaking fashion, like at the very end, she and Peter Quill are about to go their separate ways, and they kind of go back to back for a second. She says, I bet we were fun. And that line hits so hard because it reminds me of La La Land. In fact, right when I got out of the theater, I told my girlfriend, I was like, this is straight up something out of La La Land. Like, right person, wrong time. In another universe, they were meant to be together, and they were, but now it's like they just can't be together. They have to go their separate ways because her new family is the Ravagers, and Peter Quill has to go home for his real family that he hasn't been with in years. So it's a very sad ending, but it's bittersweet in a way, and Gamora kicked ass in this movie. Though it did take a while to warm up to her, she was still really great. Coming in at number 5 for me is a character who has made their way up from the bottom of my ranking, Mantis. Like in Guardians 2, and for frankly most of the MCU with this character, I was like, she's the worst Guardian by far. I don't care if they kill her off. This movie really changed my opinion on that. Now in the Guardians Holiday Special, I warmed up to Mantis a lot more because because she was almost like the main character. It's revealed at the end that she's actually the sister of Peter Quill. That was a sweet moment. And then going into this movie, she has a lot of lines that really hit, and she's actually crucial to the plot itself. Like, she's responsible for pretty much saving everyone at the end as she tames those beasts and they're able to get free. And her powers are really useful here. Like in the Orgo Corp like fight scene, I love like seeing her hop around and like telling people like, you're a kitty, you're angry. She was really smart. But in many ways, she kind of became the heart of the group. Like, she tells Drax, hey, go talk to Peter and tell him this advice. And that was a great little scene. But there's also this one scene with Nebula and Drax where she sort of yells at Nebula for being rude and is like, yeah, Drax is stupid, but we love him and he provides a lot of heart and he's like a family man at his core. So there's a lot of really sweet Mantis moments in this movie that really warmed me up to her. And then at the end, she rides off into the sunset, essentially. I don't think we'll see her again in the MCU, but it was a beautiful ending to that character. You know, she realized, I've been doing things for ego my whole life, and now for the Guardians, I'm gonna do me and go explore on my own. We got one last great comedic bit where Drax was like, wait, I'll go with you. You need protection because you're so weak. And it was just funny to see them have one like final little bit like that. But watching Drax and Mantis wave goodbye to each other and Drax has got the tears filling his eyes, like that just is another moment that just wrecked me. Mantis, you came so far from Guardians 2. I really ended up loving this character and the dynamic she played in the group. But coming in at number 4 for me is Drax the Destroyer, or Drax the Dad, I should say. This is a character that kind of had his ups and downs for me over the course of the MCU, but in this movie, the humor worked fully. He was hilarious, the perfect line deliveries, but he also was a badass. I mean, he would kick ass when he needed to in this film. We really get to see a soft side of Drax. You know, he's talked about how he wanted to kill Thanos and Ronan because they took away his daughter. Well, in this movie, there's a whole plot line where they discover this group of kids in the High Evolutionary ship, and he actually understands their language, and he's actually able to calm them down and soothe them as he's a dad, and he makes these monkey noises and the score plays, and we get to see that he really was meant to be a dad. Like the line I mentioned earlier, Nebula says, you were meant to be a dad, you know, and that really hit. So we get to see this soft, fatherly side of Drax, making him really easy to connect with and the most lovable he's ever been in the MCU. Like, there were points where I was like, Drax is irritating, but looking back, he always just cared so deeply about his family, the Guardians, because in the end, he lost his real family, so he found a new one with the Guardians of the Galaxy. This character had a great ending, him finally dancing. You know, I didn't realize the first time I watched the movie, his first line is like, dancing is for idiots. And then at the end of the film, he ends up being the last one to start dancing with everybody as Dog Days Are Over plays. Beautiful moment. At number 3 is Groot. This could be clouded by nostalgia because I've always loved Groot, but I think that in this movie, I'll admit, he doesn't have the meatiest role, but in terms of his like abilities, they're the coolest we've seen in the MCU. Like, this might just be my favorite variation of Groot. Baby Groot, hard to top, I will admit, but like we get to see Groot with like 8 arms, rocking a bunch of different blasters, just blowing people away. He literally flies down out of the High Evolutionary ship with wings to like save Peter. He's kicking ass in the final like one-take action shot, and at the very end of the movie, we as the audience finally get to hear him say, I love you guys, which is so emotional and beautiful, frankly. Groot has proven throughout the entirety of this franchise that he's always going to be a reliable right-hand man. Well, in this movie, he's just that. Groot's never had the most lines or the biggest roles, but his presence is just so sweet, and you can feel it always. He's always been a bundle of joy. Like, at the end of the movie, he's the one that initiates the dancing for everybody. You gotta love Groot. My runner-up for my favorite Guardian is Star-Lord. For the longest time, Star-Lord and another character have sort of been juggled for me in terms of who my number 1 Guardian is. Well, in this movie, Star-Lord is my runner-up. I love this man. I always have. Chris Pratt is incredible. There's a scene where Rocket is dying in his arms and he's just screaming, crying. That's his best friend, and it just hits right in the feels. Of course, we get to see him reunite with his grandpa at the very end, which was such an emotional moment. And he's still got his humorous moments, you know, that whole bit where he hits the wrong button on the comms when he's trying to talk to Gamora so that everyone can hear him instead of just Gamora. He's got those comedic bits that hit, but he's got that classic Peter Quill charm still. Just like every Guardian, he gets his time to kick ass in this movie, and he almost dies. He goes back for the Zune player, and he's stuck in space, bloating up and freezing, and I was like, okay, Star-Lord's dead that quickly? He gets saved by Adam Warlock, but still, we almost lost him, and it would have been devastating to lose him. This entire movie, Peter is coping with the loss of Gamora. We see him drinking, and he's just drunk as a dog, pretty much. And then, obviously, Rocket gets injured. They have to go try and save him. He shows his love and leadership within the Guardians. He's like, I don't care. We're going to save my best friend Rocket. And ultimately, on this mission, Gamora ends up being a crucial part of it, and he's trying to win her back. By the end, he sort of also agrees, like, I love Gamora, but I had that relationship in a past life. I gotta go visit my grandpa, who I haven't seen my whole life. He's like, I've been running since I was 8 years old, and he finally goes back. Has a great little send-off for this character. Star-Lord's always got the high energy. He's just the man. But taking the top spot for me is Rocket Raccoon. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is all about Rocket. Early on in the film, Rocket gets deathly injured, and the Guardians go on a mission to try and save him. And James Gunn tells the story so well, as a lot of flashbacks are interspersed, showing us Rocket's backstory backstory that's been teased in the other Guardians films, but now we finally get to see it. And it's beautifully tragic. You know, we get to see this wonderful relationship form with Lila and Floor, the rabbit, and Teefs. Rocket finally has friends and a family. It's beautiful because he gets to have this family, but it's super upsetting and tragic as the High Evolutionary is the ultimate scumbag. I hated his guts. He ends up using Rocket for Rocket's brain, and then Rocket discovers that all of his friends are going to get killed and they were never going to this new world. So right when Rocket breaks out his friends, the High Evolutionary kills Lila and the other two of his friends die. Rocket goes crazy and it's just a tragic story. Everything that he ever had was lost right in front of his eyes. He was tortured mercilessly for years, and then we see in real time he is about to die and he goes up to like this heaven setting that's all white and he sees all of his friends again, and that moment is the moment in this movie that breaks me more than any. I cried so hard the second time. The first time I was very upset as well, but when Rocket just sees them and he puts his paw over his mouth, it hurts my heart and soul. It breaks me. And then he says, "Can I come with you?" It's just so sad. This is a character who we've known to have a tragic backstory through all of the MCU films, and he's always talked about it, but this film really put it on display, front and center, the brutality of Rocket's backstory, and it really made me appreciate this character more than ever. He's always been high on my Guardians ranking. This movie cements him at the top for me, and he's got a lot of great moments after he comes back to life in this film where he realizes he's a raccoon and he embraces it. He's got the moment where he says, "I'm done running." Of course, at the end of the movie, Rocket ends up being the new leader of the Guardians, having a perfect send-off to that character, and the Guardians wouldn't be the same without Rocket. This movie is a beautiful send-off to him and his entire group of characters, but Rocket is the top dog of the Guardians after Volume 3. But that's just my ranking of all 9 Guardians from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Let me know yours in the comments down below, and be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to help me reach my goal of 75,000 subscribers here on the channel. It means a lot. I'm very, very close. You guys have been killing it with support lately, so thank you, thank you. Stay tuned for a live stream coming tonight with special guest Sean Chandler, as well as some shorts. And I got a pretty busy week coming up with some more MCU videos, so make sure to be on the lookout for those. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.